now. Into the tunnel of love.
What are we doing on time?
Traffic's a mess, but if we take the tunnel, we'll just make it.
The tunnel, which runs under 24 feet of riverbed and 72 feet of water that's deep, was completed in 1926.
Guy's a genius. Right into the tunnel.
Oh, we got a live one here.
I was up at my winter resort place, my ranch up near Lake Tahoe, and the script came, and it was called Daylight. I had almost died in the Copley Plaza fire in Boston in 1979, and I began thinking about all these firemen, all these emergency medical service workers. So I thought, you know, maybe this movie could be like a payback to men and women who do this, make our society better, contribute, risk their lives in these horrible disaster situations.
I think that would be diminishing the actual intent of the film to say that it was, quote, an action film, because it's not a chase film, it's not about guns and bullets, it's about the internal combustion of fear and trying to suppress it and overcome it.
Sylvester Stallone, everybody agreed that he was, of the major stars, he would be the perfect guy.
If you want to buy some time, you gotta blow the tunnel shut.
What are you doing here, kid?
You're not part of this. I know that, but just listen to me.
I'd say that Rob has been instrumental in trying to support what I've been trying to do for a while, because he wanted a very naturalistic character. He wanted to have a person that I am somewhat in my private life to be on camera.
And action!
It's the exact replica of one of the more famous tunnels in New York. It's been painstakingly researched down to the tiles, and the fact that it's been built to handle an ocean of water and the cave-ins. This tunnel is really a miracle of engineering. I've never seen a set like it.
The most difficult thing was to build this section of tunnel in such a way that we could use one. Otherwise, we would have probably had to build two, because there's so many things that have to happen. And I think we had something like 7 or 8 revamps where we had to move the crew out, change the tunnel to the next stage, and move it back in.
What happens, and it almost happened in the late 40s, is there's a collision in the tunnel. One truck is carrying toxic waste, which happens all the time illegally. And then there's another person who is trying to escape from the police. There's an accident that happens. The truck is hit from behind by the 2 perpetrators. A fireball occurs, and then it seeks air. So the tunnel becomes like a gun barrel, and it rolls over all these hapless victims, microwaving its way to the very end of the tunnel, where it causes a collapse. And there's no way into this tunnel. Basically, these people have been sealed and buried alive.
I didn't want it to just be generic fire. I wanted the fire to have an anatomy. It had what we called the leading edge, which in my mind was like a rototiller. And the mass behind the leading edge was the fireball. And the third element was what I called the plasma, which was like the surface of the sun.
There's a tremendous amount of live action cuts within that sequence, and a lot of it has obviously enhanced fire elements on it. But they started with our material, and then if it needed more fire, then the CGI guys would enhance it.
Shots that Rob worried about were things like Amy inside the car. One fellow's idea was to take a flamethrower and just blast it against the windshield. And he said, that's not a good idea. What if something happens to Amy? Not good. So instead I said, oh, let's just do colored light, interactive light in the tunnel, photograph her, and let's composite all the flame in after the fact so it's safer at least, and we can achieve the same thing. And so Rob immediately liked that. Grant McCune at that time had been hired to do all the miniatures.
When we finished the construction and we're getting ready to shoot, Rob and Raffaella came here to see it, and Raffaella actually looked down the tunnel and said, why did we build all that in Rome?
The funny thing was, we were photographing in the full-size tunnel, a quarter-scale color tunnel in Los Angeles with Grant, and yet again another quarter-scale tunnel back here at ILM.
The tunnel actually took on this horrible, demonic, unforgiving attitude. It was like torturing us piece by piece, inch by inch, and swallowing characters. And to me, it was like this beast.
I found you, all right? I don't blow out your fire!
The concluding premise was the idea of the real-life phenomenon called the blowout.
We decided to do most of the sequence dry for wet because we thought it would be too dangerous to work with the actors that deep underwater for such a long period of time. In this first shot, we decided to hang the camera from bungee cords to give us a little bit of flotation. We had to do a pretty dangerous stunt where we had Sly underneath a ton of this kind of dirt and mud and needed to pull him through it. So it was the kind of thing where we only had one take to get the shot, and we saved it for last because we wanted to make sure we really knew how to get the underwater look the way we wanted. We had shot Amy against a blue screen doing some fairly difficult gymnastics, and we composited her into the geyser as well.
Everybody wants to survive, but how do you survive? You can't survive alone. And we realize that only with this esprit de corps, this coming together, this homogenizing of the group, will we make it.
Survival in the third millennium after the year 2000 is going to come from community. Communities are going to have to solve the problems we have. And this world is like the tunnel. It's bigger than a tunnel, but the principle remains the same. We have to save ourselves. We have to participate. And we have to sort of, reach across the breach to each other to make the community that will be the instrument of survival as this world goes on, or this world won't see human beings populating the planet in the year 3000. And that was my metaphor. That's what daylight meant to me.
I think I'll ride with you.
One condition.
What's that?
We gotta take the bridge.